Welcome to this meeting of the Joint Cabinet Committee of Stratford-on-Avon and Warwick District Councils on Thursday, the 10th of March 2022. I'm Sophie Vale, the Committee Services Officer for Warwick District Council. For clarification for those members of the public watching, each council is represented on the committee by 3 councillors. In addition to this, there are a number of councillors from each authority who are observing the meeting. For our first item of business, there is the appointment of the chairman of the committee, who will take the role of chairman until the next committee meets. The committee next meets. Please, can I have any nominations? Councillor Cook.
Chairman, can I move Councillor Day, please?
And I'll second that, Sophie.
Okay. Any more nominations? And we'll take it to a vote. Everybody voting in favour of Councillor Day, raise your hand. And against? No, Councillor Day is the chair. I'll hand it over to him.
Thank you very much, Ms Vale. The next item of business is apologies, and we note that there's been one apology from Councillor Milton as an observer from our Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and Councillor Harvey is substituting for Councillor Parry. Therefore, moving along, on to the next item, declarations of interest. Councillors, please can I have any declarations so they can be recorded in the minutes? None seen. Thank you. On to item 4 then. The next and main item on the agenda is the South Warwickshire Local Plan Evidence Report, which updates members on the various technical studies being prepared as part of the local plan evidence base to inform the preparation of the South Warwickshire Local Plan. In particular, it seeks endorsement of the Housing and Employment Land Availability Assessment, HELA, methodology. I'm sure that's going to be a fun set of letters we'll be returning to many occasions. My intention is to seek comments firstly from the scrutiny chairs and our observers before providing an opportunity for the committee to speak. And then I will come to the 2 portfolio holders, Councillor Cook and Pemberton, to summarise before taking a vote on this item. So if I may therefore ask our one scrutiny chair here present, Councillor O'Donnell, for your comments.
Thank you, Chair. So the members were supportive of the South Warwickshire Local Plan, especially with its commitment to place climate change at its heart. They also supported the more holistic approach the plan will take. Furthermore, members were supportive of the 20-minute neighbourhood initiative, but would like more information on this to go to councillors to help garner support for the initiative. There was support amongst members for business incubator centres and asked for these to be explored within the plan. And when possible, the committee would also like an agreed schedule of available powers relating to climate change to be provided to ensure that the South Warwickshire Local Plan is as strong as possible in this area.
Thank you very much, Councillor O'Donnell. If I could turn now to our group observers for comments. Firstly, to Councillor Davidson.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure I speak for all of us that the officers have done a tremendous task, and I would urge everyone to look at the appendix, Appendix 1, which shows the huge range of things going on. Some of these are outside their control, like the number 1, Coventry and Warwickshire, Hedner, and there are others as well. So it's a lot of, I'd say, layers of evidence going in place, and at the minute I think the direction of travel is excellent.
Thanks, Councillor Davidson. I could now turn to Councillor Junid.
Thank you. I was on the Overview and Scrutiny. I'm the Vice Chair, so I endorse what the Overview and Scrutiny said, particularly about making sure that we are fully aware of the powers that are available to local planning officers and planning the members that are putting the climate change, the local plan together, to make sure that we are fully aware of what powers are available to the council. And I would like to have some inclination or update about, well, what government plans are likely to affect this as it's being put together.
Thank you, and I'll ask our officers to respond to that shortly when we actually consider the item. Councillor Mangett, could your group, your comments, please?
Thank you. Just to echo Councillor Davidson's comments, really, tremendous amount of work, so thanks to the officers. And I think in terms of looking at part of the report was to sort of note the technical studies are underway and endorse the methodology, and was supportive of that.
No, thank you, Councillor Mangott. And whilst I know this is not technically a finance and audit matter on our part, I'd come to you, Councillor Nichols, in case you have any other comments to offer as well.
Thank you. That's very kind of you, Councillor Day, but I don't. It didn't go to our Finance and Audit Scrutiny Committee. I think it's a bit early for us, but it will come there presumably when we start to see some numbers and some resources. But I think we should all echo the points that have been made about the amount of work here and the methodology that's being adopted. It seems very sensible and helpful.
Thank you very much. In which case now I'll come to members of the committee. And I will actually also, if I may, take leave as chairman to ask my colleague, Councillor Phelps, even though not formally recognised as a group, nonetheless an important group of independent councillors, for your comments as well. Councillor Phelps.
Well, I was going to compliment the publicity. To get 500 sites brought forward shows that it was wide, it was good, and it reached most people. So that was my comment. I was really, really pleased that 500 sites are okay. All of them won't necessarily be right for what we want, but at least they were brought forward. So compliments from us on the publicity.
Thanks, Councillor Phelps. To members of the committee then for further comments before we turn to the portfolio holders. Any points, comments wish to be made? Otherwise, out of courtesy, I will go to our colleagues in Stratford first. Councillor Pemberton as portfolio holder.
Thank you very much, Chair. Before making a sort of comment myself, I think myself and Councillor Cook are heartened to hear the comments made about the work that's been put in by officers of the joint plan team in bringing us to this first part. And Mr. Careford, if you could convey those comments to your team so that they all understand that their work is being appreciated, and there is a high level of confidence that we're going in the right direction. I don't know whether Mr. Careford has any quick observations himself to make. If not, we'll move on there. No. Members, this is there are lots of different analogies flying around. When we talk about call for sites, there's the inverted funnel, so that's the top of the hopper, everything going in there. We were talking about a 1,000-piece jigsaw yesterday at the advisory group. I think some of us left pieces of our jigsaw down the side of our chairs, and other people talk about onions. So whichever way you sort of skin that particular cat, there's lots of ways of bringing the evidence base forward. It's a really strong and robust piece of work that's being done that enables us to look forward. And the one thing I would urge people to do when considering the local plan is look forward for both Warwick District and Stratford District. The current plans are the past, so look forward, and we're doing things in a really innovative way here, with lots of input, both through the technical studies, the work that we've commissioned with the Met Office. So I think Councillor Cook and I are looking forward to bringing further pieces forward for your delectation. Thank you.
Councillor Pemberton, could I ask, are you moving the recommendations?
I am indeed.
One and two are set out in the evidence report.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Pemberton. Councillor Cook.
Yes, obviously I want to echo the thoughts of Councillor Pemberton in thanking staff, etc. What I would say is that you will remember, Mr. Chairman, that the reason we're all sitting in this room to a certain extent is that you and I went to a meeting of the Planning Advisory Service at North Warwickshire, and the reason we were going to that was Dave Barber had suggested we might like to do the evidence base jointly with Stratford. All I will say is that the rest is history, but that is one of the prime reasons that we're sitting in here. I would just say that there are the documents that are being presented at this meeting. There's quite a lot of meat in there, some technicolor charts as well, and some graphs and all sorts of other things. There is a long, long way to go, and I think the timings, that's part of the agenda. There's the calendar of when we expect. I think that's very, very critical as we go forward. I think that there's going to be
rocky way. There's going to be some rocky events on the way because my predecessor doing the local plan in Warwick District told me that as we got closer to the thing, it became a nightmare. So I'm just hoping that isn't the case and that all is harmony and all is sweet and light as we get around to it. That's me done.
Whenever Councillor Cook is working with me, everything is sweetness, harmony and light.
Good to see such excellent teamwork, and I'm assuming, and therefore, you're seconding the motion, and if so, could I ask members of the committee whether they support that? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Councillors Pemberton and Cook. Moving on then to item 5 on the agenda is the South Warwickshire Local Plan Update Report, which seeks to update members on the progress of the South Warwickshire Local Plan and to agree its scope and end date. My intention is to seek, again, comments from scrutiny and then go to observers before we turn to our committee members to speak, concluding with our 2 portfolio holders who will summarise before we then take a vote. So once again, if I may come to Councillor O'Donnell.
Thank you, Chair. So members raised some concerns on this, that parish councils were concerned about the South Warwickshire Local Plan and implications for already developed neighbourhood development plans. The committee would like more information to go to residents and parish councils to make sure that they understand that this is not going to be the case and the plan still takes into account local priorities.
Thank you, Councillor O'Donnell. Coming to our group observers as well, Councillor Davidson.
Thank you. I've always struggled with the idea of these long local plans that then get changed every 5 years. So the 2050 date was a great concern until I was assured by officers that not all the houses or allocations would happen at once, that they would come in a phased way. I think that's right, and if that's correct, then I'm comfortable with the 2050. We've seen in the last couple of years that things can change overnight, and it may well be that our best laid plans need to be changed going forwards. So that was one point. The golden thread, the 4 things there: climate change, connectivity, biodiversity, well-being. I'm sure we're all in favour of those. It's very challenging to do that in terms of houses and employment. And I look forward to officers telling us more about well-being, because I don't think we've got there yet, but I think that's great. And then the third bit is slightly less, well, it's still important, is this suite of plans notion. And that's partly due to working as 2 councils rather than 1. So, for example, in Warwick District, student housing, HMOs, purpose-built student accommodation is a bigger issue and is something that we're trying to address. And I believe that's part 2. So that, again, is something that how that fits is challenging. Again, I think I've been assured that that may happen in parallel a bit. So quite how that works is yet another headache for our hard-working officers.
And if I could just respond to that, there's also the powers of licensing that we're reviewing as well as part of this process to make sure they work in properly together to address those particular matters. The accommodation, student accommodation matters, I mean. Thank you very much. If I could turn to Liberal Democrats, if I may, Councillor Juna.
Yes, just 2 questions really, if I might. The end date of the South Warwickshire Local Plan is 2050, but how much are we able to be flexible if circumstances such as government policy changes meanwhile during that period? And the second one is, given that this is part 1, a strategic plan, will the consultation be specific to this one part, or will that consultation be rolled over for part 2, or will there be fresh consultations for part 2 as that progresses?
Thank you, Councillor Juna. 2 very good questions. I'm going to turn to Mr. Careford, if I may, to get the correct answer. Mr. Careford.
Thank you, Chairman. Just on the first point, if I may, the benefit and the value of Part 1 plan is its flexibility. And, just to give comfort to Councillor Dempson, we haven't made any decisions about exactly what that looks like. But we have the flexibility, the ability to change things as we move forwards. And actually, to address Councillor Junior's point on item 4, is we don't know quite what the government are doing as well. So a more flexible approach from us allows us to adapt, react a bit more as appropriate. I think what the key thing here is what we're trying to do is set a very high-level framework that is robust to 2050. What we want to do is fix that, make sure we're comfortable with that, make sure that's robust and has durability to it, and then all the detail that sits below it, that's what we can change and react over time. So that's the idea, really. We get that high-level framework in place, and then things can come and go as necessary. In respect of the consultation, they would be specific to each plan. So with preparing a Part 1 plan, there's numerous stages of consultation to that. That is about Part 1. The Part 2 plan, as Councillor Davidson alluded to, it may follow in close succession or in parallel. There will be separate consultation on that as well. So each plan has its own statutory processes to go through. Thank you.
That's very helpful, and I believe answers your questions, Councillor Gina. Yep, thank you. If I could move on then to Councillor Mangat for your thoughts.
I think colleagues have said most of the things that, wanted to cover. So, yeah, we're supportive of the recommendations, and, it's good to hear the officer's perspective as well on that.
Thank you. And I'll also ask Councillor Phelps for comments from the independents, please.
I really just want to support Councillor O'Donnell's comments about the parish and town councils and obviously the Warwickshire Association and local councils. There really are their ears on the ground, and the sooner and more we can consult with them, the better.
Wholeheartedly agree, having seen the uptake in neighbourhood development plans and the extensive consultation and work and response from the community. That is going to be a key part of the building block, if you like, of this plan as well. So thank you for that. I wholeheartedly agree. Very good. Members of the committee, comments, questions, debate? Without further ado, then, I'll reverse the order and I'll go to Councillor Cook to propose recommendations.
Yes, in doing that, I just want to say that the work that's been done so far, I've been amazed at the the amount of feedback we have already had in the consultations. The scoping for sites has already been said, particularly successful. The work, of course, on that is going to take a lot of effort actually going through all those sites and bringing them forward. I think also the situation with that is we will eventually get further down the road to some recommendations which we'll put forward. Some key sites, I suspect, going from what Mr. Careford was saying about getting the strategy right at the beginning. But I will tell you that it is already of interest at parish councils, certainly in our patch, and I suspect on Stratford, and there's a lot of interest in some of the sites, and indeed even close to home. Somebody rang me last week and said, do you realise you're putting some houses in the green belt next to my house? I said, we're not. I said, this is early stage. None of these sites have been looked at. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how it all develops, and I do think the amount of work that's gone into this, and particularly the papers that Mr. Careford submitted to Darren and I think about 2 or 3 weeks ago, which is the basis of this meeting this evening. I think there's a lot of very interesting work in, and I think requires a lot of digestion, but also I think there's some good imaginative suggestions in there. I'd like to move the recommendations, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Cook. Councillor Pemberton.
Thank you. In seconding the recommendation, I'll just make a couple of observations for the benefit of the committee and the observers. In relation to the call for sites, I'll go back to my inverted funnel. It's the top of the hopper. Everything's been thrown in. That doesn't mean to say that what will come out at the bottom. And I did say a few minutes ago about people looking backwards rather than forward, and that goes for the landowners and the developers themselves. I think that a lot of people are still thinking in terms of a housing-led plan, and a lot of people are failing to understand that this is a holistic plan. So, for example, only 7% of the sites for employment. So they're not getting the memo, and that's something that we are trying to push really hard. And that's the reason we're going for 2050, because if we embed climate change in the plan, you need to give certainty about the infrastructure to support climate change, adaptation and mitigation. And you need to have a long plan period to be able to support the consistent approach to how we're going to secure all types of infrastructure. But alongside that, Councillor Junid, you do make the point that from time to time central government is wont to change its mind. And I think the approach is when the facts change, you change your opinion. And that's why we've gone for the sort of flexible approach of a part one. So that creates a framework, a structure, Christmas tree if you like, and then in part two we'll put all sorts of baubles on for different policies. So with that, how many shopping days there are to Christmas comment, I second the recommendations.
Fabulous. That was what a series of mental pictures we have there. We finally got ourselves to a seconded motion. Thank you, Councillor Pemberton. Those in favour, please show. That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on then to item 6. Is it going to get even more colourful? This is the question. The next item is our South Warwickshire Local Plan Timetable Report, which seeks to agree at the timetable for the preparation of the plan. Again, I will come first to our scrutiny chairs. Councillor O'Donnell.
Thank you, Chair. There was just one comment from the committee. They would like, where possible, a more detailed timetable of the plan to be provided so that timely and effective scrutiny can take place.
That's a very good point. Can I just, actually, I'm going to go to Mr. Careford just to elaborate and address that particular question first before I come to our observers. Mr. Careford.
Yes, what we need to, with members, confirm is that work plan, and when we can engage with members and so members are aware when that's the best time to do it. This is, if you like, that high-level plan that the purpose here is to embed this into documents that are called local development schemes. We're advised to adopt those. But yes, there is a detailed work plan below this, and I think, yeah, it's absolutely right that members are aware what tasks are happening when, so that you can get the most out of it, and we can get the most out from members, really. That's, yeah, noted.
And that will be shared in due course as that gets further developed. Hopefully that addresses your specific concern there. Thank you. Councillor Davidson.
Thank you. As a member of the advisory group, I think we're being well led. I don't know all the details of what's coming forwards, but I've got confidence in them. And we're being told very, very much at this stage it's information gathering, not making decisions, and I'm comfortable with that. Figure 1 on page 44 gives a sort of timetable. It hasn't got all the details, but it's scary how long it takes, and I'm sure we're being led well. On 1.7 just below, I did mention data from elsewhere. It says 2021 census results should be due this spring, and obviously that is really quite crucial because our data on how many people we think might be here, let alone how many we think will be here in 2050, is really quite important to know. And obviously I do hope that comes. It does say delay to publication may impact on the proposed timetable, and I think that's right, because if we don't have any solid data of where we are now, it's really hard to project forwards. But I'm comfortable with the timetable.
Your points are very well made on data, and I too am looking forward on a number of reasons, population, the ONS results, but I also think too post-pandemic, where we're going to need fresh data because so many of the assumptions we've made prior have fundamentally changed, and we see that in the operation of our own councils for that matter. So you're absolutely right, and I think that's going to be a key part of the consideration as this timetable is developed as well. So thank you. Thanks, Councillor Davidson. Councillor Junid.
No specific ones to add to it. The only thing I note is that the timetable will have to be kept under review if elections, depending on the outcome of the merger. As a member of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, I would also like any timetable changes to be, given to us that we can comment specifically on any particular item.
That would be welcomed and helpful, I'm sure, to the whole process. So I'm confident that we can do that. Very good. Councillor Mango.
Thank you. Just to say, it's early days in the process and, it all seems very reasonable. So thank you.
Indeed it is. It's going to be a long journey. Councillor Nichols, and then I'll come to Councillor Fell.
I just wanted to say something about finances, if I might, Councillor Day. It's paragraph 4.2.1, and it suggests, doesn't it, that Warwick District Council is going to have to find its share of the money within its next medium-term financial strategy. And also, it seems to me that it would be wise to make sure that the estimates of cost are accurate and as much as they need to be, rather than it looking as if it was all going over budget as we go through the process, because I think that will just become a distraction. So my advice would be that we need to see a budget for this. And actually, it would be quite interesting to see a budget with staff costs as well as not including staff costs. I mean, how much is this costing us? So that we've got some kind of scope of that, which one would hope would remain reasonably accurate throughout the period. But I say that because I think it will protect the two councils or the single council, whatever it is, as we come to conclusion in terms of what, value for money. And I just worry a little bit about sort of estimates being in the public mind and then being overturned by events, and therefore criticisms arising maybe unfairly about overspend.
That point is noted, and I'm sure can be taken up by Mr. Careford's nodding. And I think it's important also to acknowledge that by working together, we are saving our residents a significant sum by doing a joint plan. We do. I wasn't taking your comments in any way as a criticism, Councillor Nichols. It was a helpful suggestion to monitor and manage us as we go along, including the staff costs. I think that's terribly important. But yes, a joint working, this is one first clear benefit, is in making one plan together. Thank you. Councillor Phelps.
Yeah, I was just going to mention the impact of the C word, but as you've already done, Leader, I don't need to say any more about COVID.
Thank you very much, Councillor Phelps. If I could come to members of the committee, any comments, debates, matters, in which case, reversing the order again, I'm going to come to Councillor Pemberton first to move the motion.
Thank you. I'll move the motion just to give confidence to members of the committee that Councillor Cook and I, probably more Councillor Pemberton than Councillor Cook, has fairly strong and robust conversations with Mr. Careford about the speedy and effective delivery of the plan, to the extent that I do have some adverts for a second-hand DeLorean for you. And with that, I move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Pemberton. Councillor Cook.
Yes, in seconding that, I'd just like to say Darren Pemberton is underselling himself to a certain extent, which is very rare for me to say something like that. But the pressure does come on at meetings from Councillor Pemberton insofar as he really wanted this thing done before it had started, hence the DeLorean quote. But one of the things I did say, and I think he and I both are in agreement in this, is that if we're going to do it, let's do it properly. Now, the timetable that's set out in the papers, and Councillor Day, you were with me when we discussed this with John Careford at a meeting, and I think it's been carefully done, but slippage is always the problems on these things. I would also like to say to Councillor Nichols that local plans are seriously expensive. I was given a figure about for how much the last one cost, and I'm not going to say what it was here, but hopefully each council will have to pay considerably less than that on this occasion. But no, I think the timetable has been thought about, and quite clearly it's something that everybody's going to be concentrating on, but we will do our best. We will do our best. Second the motion.
Those in favour, please show. That's carried unanimously again. Thank you very much. Thank you, councillors, for the debate and for all the observations and support from scrutiny and from our political groups. The next item on the agenda is urgent business, of which there is none, and therefore, as all the items have now been considered, I declare the meeting closed. Thank you.